So I am going to read poems. I was surprised about how many winter poems I actually have throughout all my books. And seems like not just that it's a good time to write in the winter, but it's also seems to supply the kind of images and interiority that I love to work with. So I've just selected poems from different books to celebrate this time of year. The first one is called Sleep Comes from the Flowers. And the title, I was actually reading something, they were old Hindu stories, and they said there was a story that was called Sleep Comes from the Flowers. And I liked that so much that I just took the title and then went off on my own on it. So Sleep Comes from the Flowers. 3 hours the deer sleep, then back to the vowels of the water, the all-day drowse of mice and grass and owls. Snow like white dahlias, deer curled together like buds. The ice in the creek cannot bear any more cold and cracks each night into 1,000 mums. Petal of the squirrel's lid, closed and safe. The trees stay awake or asleep as you prefer. Like me, they take what is offered them. But the animals strive, pace the fields for food or mates. Do moths sleep together or apart? Everything with consciousness must sleep, not merely rest, though bird dreams last 9 seconds or less, and fish can sleep while swimming. What part of the body continues? The twin butterflies inside my chest spin and spin from their cocoons. The heart, like a loon, cries out in its dream and still manages to stay afloat. We are summoned to sleep like a vocation, perhaps a religious one, some drop from activity into loam. The dark blooms in winter on the walls of the canyon. We achieve our imagination in increments. The next one, these are all from reading novelas in Montana. This one is, it's called My Heart Like an Upside Down Flame. And it comes from the one of the collograms that Apollinaire did. They were the first concrete poems. And this poet, Apollinaire, made different ones, a crown, but this one is a heart, and the poem itself is just written in that shape, and it says, my heart like an upside down flame. And so I love that idea of just, if you turn the heart upside down, it looks like a candle flame. So that's this poem. One walks or wants to walk with the glow cupped by 2 hands, as if light were water, as if lemon verbena, a blossom around the solid figure of the wick. But look what can happen. The heart has been looted of its small valuables. Music, of course, and the dancing couple from childhood, secure in their velvet-lined box. What is it that so captivates us in the old cliche? I am thinking of the light cast from the pines or the first green shoots of onion, bird in the palm, if only we were patient enough. We who lay the fragile thing beating in the yard, then trust the stray cat won't find it. Here is the pile of gray feathers and grit. Who was it who told us courage was a virtue? A candle burns at solstice on a simple yellow plate after work hours, after the bills are paid. The safe heart, then, burrowed into its winter cave, fish bones, and behind them, swimming. What is it that I expected the heart to do? Follow me, a handmaid arranging the bouquets? or this tree, then that one, a row of grayer birch, as the flame steps out from the shadows of its house. And then, let's see, I'll read this one. This is kind of a longer one. It's called red poles, and red poles are they're called an interruptive species of bird, which means that they don't come back every year, that it depends on, where they're coming from. They're coming from the Arctic to Montana, and sometimes we get these flocks of red poles, and they're the tiniest little finch-like birds with a little flush of pink on their breasts. And we're quite lucky when they come. Red poles. For days they have swarmed the thistle bag like flies to a sweet. The snow began early and broadened. They lifted into flocks from the side of the alder, circled the slough of willows as if they would be coming back, then further out toward the circumference, and they were gone. I was there when the 100 red poles decided to leave my life, scarlet tag on their foreheads, pink wash on their breasts, tundra birds, the book says, circumpolar. The winds now are distant. I dare not look up, my feet filthy with ash and the too early night, my back seat with food wrappers, bags of laundry. No wonder I want to buy something new. Red hair or a lipstick in a shade called poppy, an orchid strap that peeks from under my clothes. The way I like to hear myself talk when I've had wine and am well read. The way I don't believe in mountain lions unless I've seen them. This winter, the light never touching the walls. What is it that I was supposed to learn? Day drizzles through marsh pit and alabaster. The slur, that's what I can't stand from moment to moment. Yet this morning I saw the red poles leave for good. An eruptive species, the book says, which means they won't be back next year or next, like my grandmother, for instance. So after work, I make popcorn, fill her green bowl, take it out to the creek where she might find it. I love it here too, though the great things I want, to speak with the dead, to unfurl my nerves in some kind of exhaustive wind, to become disciplined and productive, elude me. I read of Artaud, who was tortured by his own mind, how he felt his own mind wasn't his. We all seem to live in approximation to our lives, surrounded by a bevy of ghosts who, stripped of their voices, mime and wave to us from some seat of origin. A swarm, a foreign country, they approach and fade, and finally, I think, they give up on us. Not like the chickadees who will come to my hand, who blacken the snow beneath them with husks. And this is the title poem from Reading Novellas in Montana. Novellas, a lot of people know, one of the early German romantics, and also very much a believer in that doctrine of correspondences, that that forms of nature have their correspondence in spiritual life. They're twin in the spirit world. And so to find one's way to that place, one can pay attention to forms of nature. And so I was thinking about romanticism and nature and our relationship to nature, and what does that mean now and in Montana and in contemporary times. So that's a lot of talk, but here's the poem. Reading Novellas in Montana. The dirt road is frozen. I hear the geese first in my lungs. Faint hieroglyphic against the gray sky, than the brutal intervention of sound. All that we experience is a message, he wrote. I would like to know what it means if first one bird swims the channel, across the classic V, the line flutters and the formation dissolves. In the end, the modernists must have meant it is the human world we are weary of, our arms heavy with love, its ancient failings. But that was before the world wars, in 1800, when a young German poet could pick at the truth and collect the fragments in an encyclopedia of knowledge. There is a V, then an L, each letter forming so slowly that the next appears before it is complete. The true philosophical act is the slaying of oneself, Novalis wrote, and died like Keats before he was 30. They have left me behind like one of their lost, scratching at the gravel in the fields. Where are they once the sky has enveloped them? I stand in the narrow cut of a frozen road leading into mountains, the morning newspaper gripped under my arm. But to give up on things precludes everything. I am not I, Novalis wrote. I am you. If, as the Gnostics say, the world was a mistake created by an evil demiurge, and I am trapped in my body, abandoned by a God whom I long for as one of my own, why not follow the tundra geese into their storm? Why stay while my great sails flap the ice, as if my voice were needed to call them back in the spring, as if I were the lost dwelling place for the flocks. See, I'm going to read a Montana winter poem. This isn't December, but this is where I live. I live in a very rural county, and it's a ranching community, and the calves are born in February, which is the cruelest thing because it's so cold here in February, and a few of the ranchers are starting to change that and breed them later so that they come in a little more likable weather. But I always go out in February and drive the dirt roads and see all the new calves being born. It's a delight. One of the few delights in February, right? So here's the black calf. The black calf wakes into a world it has no memory of, adamantine, February cold. Above it, a coarse blue, into a feedlot with hundreds of others. To wake, one is fortunate, but to have been awakened, to have been born, bleary-eyed, stunned, and slick with mucus. Suddenly, a heifer's water breaks. We watch her walk the yard. Agitated, she lies down, lowing. Then up in one motion, and the birth sac drops, long and thin like spittle that soon takes on dimension. Through ghost cloth, the calf's limbs poke out. All premonition, they say, is of terror. To have a body, to be an animal, is muddy business, shit and hay. And bloody afterbirth, we see another cow eating. We have a limited number of years to explore the earth, to know pre-dawn, undergrowth in shadow, noon in its clean lines. Within minutes, the black calf tries to stand. Sometimes you can time it just right, that you're right there when the water breaks, and it's very exciting. So this is, these poems are from Pictograph. One more from there. I'll just read it. It's called You Wake Claiming There Are 8 Kinds of Light. Into my beloved room, loved for the light, clean and pale and distant. The morning beds shyly its winter wings. You have been dreaming. You are half in dream still. If only we were a species that just observes. Sun, I ask you, yes. Moon, no. Sun, photosynthesis, me. I've been thinking about the Herzog movie, how the men kept stuffing dynamite into the ice in order to see further into the Antarctic, compelled to stick their noses into everything. Northern lights, you say, surfacing, rainbows, the light at the bottom of the sea. You sink back into sleep, flicking off switch after switch, locking doors, diverting the water to the tin house, a sorrow as if all were used up. Outer space, you had said, the light at solstice. So much snow across town, the roofs are caving in. So much snow, one might think it a cloud-filled day. But surely there must be more, I keep thinking. And so I'm going to read 3 poems from my new book, which isn't out, which won't be out till next year. It's called The Cloud Path. And these are winter poems too. So this one is called The Snow Geese Path. And in Montana at the equinox, there's a place about 2 hours north of me called Freeze Out Lake, where it's one of the stopping areas for the snow geese who come from around Sacramento and are on their way up to the Arctic. And there are hundreds of thousands of snow geese show up at this lake. And it's a pilgrimage I usually do at the spring equinox, which is, the lake is half frozen still then. The Snow Geese Path. We follow the loosely strung pearls of a necklace flung against the sky, as if out of vision, faint at first, then gaining dimension, as if they were conjured, a magic trick unraveling from the horizon, indecipherable scripts that hold just long enough to be form and break apart, terrorized by premonitions. Our eyes are heavy from seeing. The geese lift them, a kind of speech. We feel doomed, my brother said from across the country. We're trying to keep mother safe. Someone still has to go for groceries. Last night, I dreamt the word round, as in a round table, and then as noun, a round of poker or antibiotics or drinks or song. Verb, to round a number to the highest. 100,000 snow geese circle barren fields. 100,000 people have now died of a virus. We walk between 2 lakes, one still frozen, one with open water where buffleheads dive, while overhead snow geese float without seeming to flap their wings, a fly line or ellipses extended, a distant roar that could be their hunger or happiness. And then it is over, only blank sky, as if disappearance were the opposite of infection. I mean, the blue above us seems saturated, the bluest I have ever seen, as if sky were being cleared of our inheritance. A blue like in the old stories about a people who survive. My mother long enough to die with me beside her, my brother to gain a lucky life. I'm just going to read one more. I'm going to read the title poem. It's called The Cloud Path. Last night, my mother's dog woke me to find her drenched with sweat, passed out, as we say, unreachable. My mother, who refuses to wear her hearing aids, moves unhearing into her world, her own narrative interpretations. Passing through, as needles through the fine or heavy cloth, as clouds over the mountain, they are more transient than us. Nuage à lambeau, torn clouds. 6 friends have died. My father has died. My grandparents, 2 cats, a beloved dog. Passed away, a perfect phrase, for away is where they go, a quickness seen from the ground, and the past, which we often misuse or misspell. Blue on the cloud hem indicates pressure being released, a body on the downslope, misshapen, relative to what stays the same so long. Do you have moments too when you fear everything is sliding, that you are here on the melting ice edge of loss? Though the pond hangs on to its ice daily, dry leaves skipping across the surface, I love that it still holds our weight. Thank you.